Last week, I told you I'd follow up on Virginia Foster. She was someone who was a prospect in our system. Anyway, we got her quotes. She came back with some revisions. We turned those around. Then we called her and never heard back.
Wayne here, and as I was editing this video tonight, I got a message that we did end up getting Virginia Foster as a client. So I guess it did work out.
That happens, and honestly, Georgia is at the edge of what we're built for on the personal line side. We write personal lines in Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas, mostly, sometimes in Mississippi, but commercial lines is where we really focus on 8 states. Anyway, a home purchase in Georgia is not where we have the deepest infrastructure. We gave her our best work and it didn't close. We moved on. Now, what I actually want to talk about today is we have always had a renewal system. That was something that I always wanted to make sure that we do, and was reaching out to our clients about renewals. I want to be clear about that because this is not a story about an agency that was operating without any kind of a process. This is a story about an agency where the process existed, but only inside each individual person who owned each part of that job. And that's a very hard place to extract information if it's someone else's brain sometimes. Kelly does personal lines renewals on her own spreadsheet. Ronnie was tracking commercial lines renewals on his own. They each had their own system. They each knew their book, but I couldn't see any of it. I had access to those spreadsheets, but they have their own system. So no consolidated view, no leadership dashboard, no way for me to look at the agency on a Monday morning and know which accounts are being worked 45 days out, which ones are being worked 60 days out, depending upon the type of client they are, and which ones are past that window and haven't even been touched. The system wasn't missing, the visibility was. The distinction matters more than it sounds. Here's what fragmented visibility actually costs you. First, you can't verify SOP compliance. I have a standard that says renewals should be worked at 45 days for personal lines and 60 days for commercial lines. But I had no way to confirm that that was actually happening. I could ask, but I was taking it on faith that the spreadsheet that they were using was actually up to date and keeping up with things. Second, you can't see problems before they become crisis. If something slips in Kelly's spreadsheet or Ronnie's spreadsheet, there is no signal to me until it's already a problem. And by the time I find out, the window may already be closed. And unfortunately, I've seen this so many times. Third, you can't coach to what you can't see. And if I want to improve retention performance, I need data that I can actually look at. Not self-reported from individual spreadsheets. Consolidated data that shows me the full picture is what I need. A system that only one person can see is a system that only one person can run. So you can't scale with that type of a system. Here is what we actually built. Not a new system, a visible system. There is now one consolidated document. It feeds the leadership dashboard, and every Monday I get a report that shows me exactly where the accounts stand against the SOP. Who has been working at 45 days, who's been working at 60 days, who hasn't been touched yet and is approaching that window. Kelly's spreadsheet and Ronnie's spreadsheet still exist. They use it for their own personal stuff. That work they were doing still happens. What changed is their workflow now flows into something I can actually see and act on. I can see it, which means I can manage it, which means when something slips, I know before it becomes a crisis. Here's what I want you to take from this, and eventually I'm going to show you this entire system once I've got it up and running for everybody. If you are dependent on your team's individual spreadsheets, their self-reporting, their memory, their word, to know whether the most important recurring work in your business is actually happening on schedule, you do not have a visibility problem. You have a leadership problem. Not because your people are bad, because you have not yet built the layer that lets you lead instead of trust and hope. The work was happening here, most of it. My team was doing their jobs. The problem was that I couldn't see it. And what you can't see, you can't lead. Subscribe and turn on notifications because the rebuild is still in motion and every episode connects to the last. A system that only one person can see is a system that only one person can run. Build that visibility layer.